Hi, everyone. Welcome back to AI Asset IQ, where we talk to leaders, founders, entrepreneurs of today, the real assets of today that are shaping the businesses of tomorrow. And today I have someone really special, Tiffany, joining us. Tiffany Andrea is the founding partner of Prism Enterprises, where she helps organizations transform procurement and contract lifecycle management. With a background in strategic sourcing and supply chain leadership, Tiffany has spent most of her career driving operational efficiency and building solutions that simplify complex processes. It's great to hear. Today, she's passionate about helping businesses unlock value through smarter procurement strategies and technology driven contract management. Exactly why she's on this show. Tiffany, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
I hope I got the introduction correct.
You did good, you did good.
That's great. That's great. Well, before we dive into some of the meaty stuff of procurement
Mhm,
and contract management, it'll be good to just get to know you a little better and just like your background,
mhm.
where you've come from, what you've managed to do, and kind of what your current role is at the moment.
Well, I have spent over 2 decades in procurement and supply chain leadership, and I have been managing over $250 million in spend, as well as leading transformations across organizations like chemicals, industrial services, and manufacturing. Today, as you stated earlier, I am the co-founder of Prism Enterprises, where we help small and medium-sized businesses, also known as SMBs, to turn contract management, procurement, and operational risk into strategic growth drivers. And so my role really is about transforming complexity into clarity and making sure that the focus just isn't about cost, but is also about fueling growth and resilience.
That's fantastic. Just the way you put it. I mean, I like the whole, like taking complexity and getting clarity out of that. That makes a
Yeah.
whole lot of sense. That's the whole Prism goal, I suppose. That makes sense,
Yes,
doesn't it?
it is. It is. Our mission is to transform complexity into clarity. And I think that really resonates with people because when you think about procurement, you think restrictive, you think very process oriented, lots of controls, lots of approvals. But really, what we really want to see is a culture where everyone is taking responsibility for how you purchase, how you buy, how you contract, how you mitigate risk. And so that is really what I have tried to do over the course of my career is more cross-functional alignment and strategic partnership. And so, very happy to see that the industry is actually moving towards that now. And so it's been really exciting to see over the years the change.
Great, great. Yeah, I think the whole complexity thing, like you rightly pointed out, resonates with a lot of people at the moment. There's a lot that's changing. As you know, technology and AI uptake is disrupting a lot of the traditional way of doing things. So it'll be great to dig into some of that as well later
Mhm,
to figure out
mhm.
how you're thinking about it. But I'm just
Okay.
curious with the services that you offer right now through Prism, how does that fit into the wider, I mean, I guess procurement and contracting in general is such a wide space, it's such a wide discipline. Are
Mhm.
you focused on a particular set of industries? I think you said SMBs earlier, so there's a size there. But the people that you're working with or the people that you want to work with, is that just anyone and anybody that is looking for support?
Well, our ICP, our ideal client profile, is really very focused. So we are looking for businesses that are in the $5 to $25 million revenue space, and that's not hard, but I mean that's just an indicator of where we would prefer to be. We can't. And we don't want to, we're still getting started, getting our feet wet, all of that. And so we want to make sure that we're able to provide the right size support. And right now, we feel like that revenue range is our clients that we can support. And then we're also focused on construction, manufacturing, and industrial services. But again, especially with industrial services, that can include oil and gas as well, semiconductor. We have a lot of experience in all of these areas, but when you're starting out, you kind of do have to focus. That's not saying that we don't want clients from other spaces, but in terms of, going out there and lead generation and, making people aware of our presence, we're starting with those industries first.
Okay, that's good. It's good to know. So there's any listeners out there, they can sort of, they know who, if they're
Mhm.
the target market and they can reach out to you. I think we'll remember to put in like your socials and your details in the show notes a bit later so that people can
Yeah,
have something to tag on to. Thank
that's
you for
awesome.
clarifying that. So now I think, what I'd like to know personally, because, I'm sort of venturing slowly into that,
Mhm.
solo entrepreneur kind of role. What does a typical day look like for you, right? Because you've come from the industry, you've worked, as an employee in a big company, and now you're kind of driving all this growth yourself alone. So what does a day in the life of Tiffany look like?
Well, it's a mix, it's a mix of strategy and execution. I might start the morning, reviewing client contracts, helping, making sure that we are reducing their exposure to risk and things of that nature. And then it might move into a teaming call with a client as far as, building, on a buying culture and giving them instruction on that. And then afternoons are typically for me spent working on business development. Believe it or not, as a business owner, that takes up a lot
I hear you.
of your time is that lead generation and that, of course, learning to work AI to maximize
Yes.
all of that. So I spend a good portion of the afternoon doing that. And then I always carve out time for thought leadership. So whether that's, my LinkedIn content or preparing for conversations such as this one, that's typically what happens in a day for me is those items. So
That's
yeah.
great. I think it's fair to say that it's quite dynamic, right? And could change from day
Mhm.
to day. And it really comes down to the needs of the hour. I think you've got that all jotted down very well. That's good to know. So from your, just picking up on something that you said there is, you usually have these conversations with potential clients and people that you're
Mhm.
working with. What trends are you seeing, like by talking to some of these people? Is there something consistent across the board? Are you seeing people with different challenges? I'm just curious to get your thoughts in the, particularly like in the contract lifecycle management space.
Mhm.
Actually, before we go there, maybe just for some of our, for some of our viewers, like contract lifecycle management is a very broad term. Can you maybe just give us a view of what a typical contract lifecycle is? Like where does it
Right.
start from and kind of, what the end is?
Right.
That'll be
So,
useful.
okay. So where it typically starts from, at least from the services that we'll just talk in general, is you want a service with you want a service, you want to buy laundry services from a company, right? So typically it starts off you have someone gives someone a contract. Usually whoever's the bigger commands more dollars or will want something on their paper.
Yes.
That comes in, and now you are going into obviously the reading of the contract. You're reading for what are the terms, what is the risk, what is the warranty, and what's the indemnity. So you're looking at those things and you're saying, is this what's best for us? And then if those things are not what's best for you, now you're going into negotiations. And
Okay.
so as you go into negotiations, you go into, the redlinings. And so the contracts are going back and forth. And traditionally, that could take people always ask me, well, how long is this going to take? Well, contracting takes as long as contracting takes. And the more complex the contract, the longer that it is going to take. Where, terms and conditions might take a couple of days or maybe no time because people just sign them and move on. Complex contracts can take months.
Hmm.
And so it just all depends on, who you have sitting across from the table with you. And so with that said, you go through the negotiations, you're ready to sign. Okay, you sign the contract. Now, what do you do with that? Well, typically, now that the contract's executed and everybody has their copies, most times it goes onto a SharePoint site or into some
Yes.
folder out on, some cloud drive and is typically forgotten about until something happens. There's some dissatisfaction with the contract, and then you see that you've missed your window to renegotiate
Hmm.
or to do anything to change the contract, or you realize the terms aren't what you want to make changes, but you've missed the window. So what we are seeing from that, and that's kind of how it works, right? Is you kind of hope that you've got everything you need in the contract, and then there's some sort of we put it somewhere, and then maybe you have some sort of lever that will let you know, hey, this is coming due on this time, this time. But from what I have seen from most procurement organizations, we don't do that. We don't have that. That's a nice to have
Hmm.
thing. ERP systems are expensive enough
Yeah.
without adding on the contract management module.
Joe.
And a lot of us are just not fortunate to have that. In some of the cases of, my ideal client profile, they don't even have procurement departments, much less contract management systems. And so that's kind of the manual process that you see a. But what we are seeing in the industry now is this move to these CLMs, contract lifecycle management system softwares.
Hmm.
And we're also seeing that they come with AI.
Hmm.
They're coming with the ability to, quickly summarize a contract once it's uploaded into the contract repository. You're seeing that they come with reporting. And so you're able to see at any given time, 90 days, 180 days, you can see all the contracts
Yeah.
that you have in the contract repository and when they're due. You can actually make a strategic plan. And if you have a procurement department and you have a good procurement department, hopefully they're being proactive and they're sitting down with their internal clients and are saying, which is the other people within their organization, and they're saying, hey, 180 days from now, we have these contracts coming up due. Are we happy with these? Are we satisfied with the terms? Do we want to let it roll over in the case of an evergreen? Or do we need to stop and negotiate some more favorable terms because this has become something in the contracts become unbearable for us? Or we're fine with the contract. Let's let it roll over and let's move on. Or we want to try to source and get somebody else. We haven't been happy with the performance, and here's the documentation why. And so you're giving yourself the time you need to be able to do these things versus, somebody in operations is coming to someone in procurement and in 10 days the contract is about to expire or roll over an evergreen, and now everyone's scrambling trying to do something, and now you're on the back foot when it comes to negotiations because now they know there's only 10 days. If we can drag this out for 10 days, then we can still get what we want,
Yeah.
So, that is kind of what we're coming from. And then, what we're moving to is hopefully something that is definitely more strategic, less chaotic, more centralized, where everyone is able to see what's going on, take part, have a voice, and it's not just procurement driving it or operations driving it, but all of the parties are able to come to the table when you know something 180 days out, 90 days out, 60 days out, even 30 days out, and are able to give their contributions so that the contracting is better. And with the addition of AI, it's also faster because there are, red line versions of within the contract repository that allow for redlining and playbooks so that you can immediately put that alternative language in and send your contract off faster. And so we're seeing reductions somewhere in the 30% range in the time it
Pretty
takes to
significant.
negotiate contracts and to deal with all of that. I mean, I think it's a very significant amount when you think that 30% could be, off of a 6 months negotiation or off of a month negotiation, even. And so that's just very exciting to see. But I think also a common misconception is that, oh, AI, it makes people uncomfortable because they think, oh, all of our jobs are going to be replaced. But we have to remember AI is a prompted, scripted type of software that only learns when there's human interaction. You have to train it, you have to
Yes.
input the data. And as things change in life, and as things ebb and flow, come in, come out of style, and all the things, it has to constantly be fed.
Yes.
And so this idea that you don't need people is very not factual because you have to have, and not only that, you have to have the right person
You need the
inputting
right
those
person,
prompts
the right
because,
human in the
again,
loop. Yes.
good data in, bad data out. So AI is only as good as the human inputs that it's getting. And again, I spend a lot of time just training my own AI to know who I am, to know what I want, to know what I care about, to know my style, all of those things. And it takes a lot. And those styles change. The things that I'm thinking about change. And so I'm always feeding it so that it can produce the best outcome, and that's what you have to do, and that takes
So,
human interaction.
yeah. So from what I hear you saying is that the SMBs that you are supporting or the clients that you're talking to, they're still using fairly or semi-manual, some automation with their contract management framework in terms of how they manage things from how a contract's generated all the way from like bidding and evaluating all the way up to actually when the renewal is. That's sort of what you're saying is like semi-manual right now and on SharePoint or
Mhm,
Teams and somewhere.
mhm.
But what you're seeing is that there are now some softwares that are out there which can do quite a lot of this together. But you're saying SMBs are hesitant because they don't understand the functionality, they don't understand what it's actually going to be doing from a privacy perspective. And this is kind of where you're saying, your services come in because you understand the nuances of not only the contract side, but how some of these CLMs can be really beneficial to some of these SMBs. Are these, I mean, what do they cost much? Are they like, I'm curious what SMBs, how they would react to some of these tools that are out there. I mean, like you said, like ERP systems can be quite expensive, right? Not everybody is seeing the value in investing in, like you said, a procurement
Right,
module. But are
right.
there tools you think that are, still affordable that you can scale once you grow that would help, the contract management space?
Absolutely. And I think that what is key to note is that even with even some of the larger companies that are able to utilize and pay for some of these massive enterprise scale type softwares, is how much of that are they even really using? You're paying $1 million for an ERP system that can do, almost 90% of the work, and you're only using 30% of it. Again, it's because these massive systems require so much input from project teams and implementation teams, and you're spending all of this money just to and that's not even the maintenance. That's just if you want something new, so it's a huge grinding, kind of system. And then at the end of the day, you need a SME, you need an expert, you need someone to, stay on top of, all of the changes. F this coming out, and what are all those changes, and what does all that entail? And now you got to train everybody. You got to do all of that. And I think that's one of the interesting things that I feel like SMBs that currently don't have procurement systems or have very immature procurement systems tend to shy away from, because they're like, where are we going to get all of this bandwidth
Yeah.
to implement all of this? Because typically you've got to have a team, as well as the software team,
Yeah, the
they have
IT
a
team.
team,
Yeah, yeah.
and the IT team. So you got to have an IT team that interacts with their IT team. And so I think what Prism has found, and what I think also makes us unique, is that we are the SMEs. We already know how to utilize 90% of the system that we are recommending, the contract repository system that we're recommending. So you don't have to get a project team to interact with the project team, and then have to have a SME, and then have to have someone after that with the maintenance. Like, our quest and our drive is to partner alongside those SMBs that either don't have or have very immature procurement processes, and to partner with them and to be that SME that brings along the technology as well as the SME and the know-how, so that what you're paying for is actually full utilization of the systems. And not only that, you also get us, the
Yeah.
experts.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
You
think
don't want
that
to have
there
to worry
are
about all that. You want to
exactly.
function. You want to function and
Exactly.
that's it.
I want to upload these contracts. I want to get a report. I want you to tell me when it's time to, renegotiate 180 days and 190 days. I want you to sit down with me, let me know what I've come up. I just want to make the decision. I want to be able to see all of my contracts. I've got operations in Midland. I have operations in, on the West Coast, and I don't even know where all the contracts are. Well, this contract repository, you upload it, you have everything, and now you can start to generate reports. And depending on how detailed you want to get, it can track spend. It can track, across, a different, a category. it, are you doing, laundry services? Are you doing mining equipment, rental equipment? What are we spending? And then you can look at that and say, okay, we've got 45 suppliers and we for rental spend. Can we consolidate that? Can we get better pricing from that? And I think the another myth is, oh, we have to be centralized to do this. We have to have a centralized procurement team. We can't do this because we're decentralized. No, that's not true. If you have the right contract management system, the contract management system can be centralized. If your business works better decentralized because you've got different business units with specialized needs, that's fine. But at the aggregate, let's look at what we're spending. Let's see who we have contracts with. Let's know what we're doing and let's have a plan. And I think that's what leadership wants, is to be able to see, to be able to have that clarity to make good decisions on where we're spending our money. And there's always that thought that, oh, we've got to be centralized to do that. And you don't. I mean, does centralization have its benefits? Yes, but so does decentralization. So again, it's not about what school of thought you're on. It's about how do you get what you need to make good decisions, and that doesn't require decentralized or centralized.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
There's a few good points you brought up there, which I can try and summarize a bit later as well. You spoke about the underutilization of existing systems, which I've seen that a lot. So that's
mhm,
absolutely a strong point. And then you spoke about the centralized versus decentralized concept, which I think again is like different companies operating different ways, trying to
mhm.
figuring out what models work for them. The repository system that you spoke of, is that a Prism proprietary one? Is it a typically a license that's available? How does that work?
So that works where we do have a license, and so how that works is, so for us, again, you asked about the cost.
Yes.
Yes, it can be very costly, but also at the same time, if you are able to spread that cost around, not just one organization, but you've got 10 organizations, well,
Yes.
then that cost becomes a little bit more reasonable. So for some of the, like I said, the smaller SMBs that aren't able to, have the SAPs and the
Yes.
fancy systems that cost $20,000-$30,000 a month, I think we're offering a solution that is definitely low cost, that provides a lot of the same functionality. And with partnering with us, that you're
And you
using,
manage the whole thing for them.
we
Yeah.
manage the whole thing,
Yeah.
and you're getting full use of the system. So it's not like you're paying 30,000 for,
Sure.
$10,000 worth of use.
Sure.
So
All right. I'm just curious, from some of the stuff that we've spoken about, how are you thinking about this for your personal business growth, right? Like, how are some of these trends that you're seeing where this transition is happening? How are you planning for your own growth within your business, taking into account some of these trends?
well, I think that this particular time with these trends, I think the impact on our business is great. I think it's opening doors for Prism. And, as more firms and more clients start to recognize that procurement really can be a growth driver, and they start to look for partners who can help them with implementing those systems and negotiating strategically and building cross-functional alignment, I think that that really just opens things up for us. And in fact, it just really validates our mission of transforming, complexity into clarity. So I think that, it has a positive impact for
Right.
companies like Prism. So
Yeah.
we're excited about these conversations that are being had, and you can see them all across
Sure.
LinkedIn.
Yes.
So it's really encouraging.
Is there anything frustrating you about the conversations or about where things are going? You think it's not moving fast enough?
That's one thing, but I think also the other thing that is frustrating is the perception that procurement is, reactive, they are restrictive. So, it's about changing the perspective of procurement, right? And moving procurement from this restrictive transactional type function into a strategic cross-functional alignment organization that is transforming not just procurement, but the entire organization by creating a buying culture. So I think that, is one thing. And then, of course, we're talking about, changing that mindset. And that requires a lot of persistence and a lot of storytelling.
It's an interesting thought. I mean, me as a consumer for procurement, I just think we don't have enough procurement people around because it's just, I mean, because what's happening is like you rightly pointed out, everybody's trying to reduce costs, trying to get more effective with their capital spend and where they put their dollars. And when you look at the channels for both of that, it's via contracts. So so you really need procurement people augmented with these AI systems to be able to give you quicker cycle times and start reviewing more contracts. And so I understand your point of view in people being kind of not having the right view of procurement as a whole and the function that it serves in the wider picture. Hopefully that narrative changes, hopefully that, yeah, I think this is one of the conversations that should help that.
Definitely, and, my content on LinkedIn centers around a lot of that as well, is trying to change that, and it's not just me, there is a plethora of procurement professionals that are dedicated to changing that conception that, as soon as, procurement enters the building, "Oh gosh, everything's gonna be late, we're not gonna have what we need because they're gonna wanna negotiate over a dollar." But what we're truly seeing is that it's no longer about just cost and savings. It truly is about getting that cross-functional alignment, because once you have that cross-functional alignment and buy-in, that means that the whole organization has bought into the policies and procedures that drive procurement. And so there's no more blame game, because we're all invested in making sure that we buy smart and that we buy in the best interest of the company. And when you have all of the voices contributing to that, it's no longer just procurement's thing. It becomes an organizational thing. And like I said, it becomes part of the culture. And so that is what a lot of us procurement professionals are striving for, is to get to that cross-functional
Sure.
alignment.
Great. So moving on to a slightly kind of different question. I'm curious for your business particularly, what sort of metrics are you tracking for you to see growth or for you to see, this value that you're adding to these customers? Are there specific metrics that you track yourself?
Yes, we are tracking cycle time reduction, we're tracking supplier performance, measurable savings. And for clients, like I said earlier, that can mean cutting cycle times, especially in contract management, by 30-40%, improving supplier compliance by 25%. Where are those insurance documents that we need that we don't know, always looking for those, the COIs. And then what we also track internally is, how many leaders are we reaching within each organization that we're touching? Are we getting that cross-functional alignment? And so that we're able to start helping companies create the culture, that buying culture that we speak about. So that's kind of an internal metric, but the others are, those that we also not, provide out to the client as well.
Sure. Okay. That is quite useful. You've mentioned cross-functional alignment a few times, and I can see how important that is to you. Obviously, quite passionate about it because you've
Mhm.
seen how getting that sign off on the rapid early on just transforms the buying process to be much simpler and much smoother, right? So it's good to know.
Yeah, no, it's amazing when you have the buy-in, how fast you're able to move your policies, your procedures through, how quick people are to not only take responsibility at the management level, but then to enforce that with their folks too. So you're getting all of this help that you've never had before when you allow people to have a voice and to, create something that works for the business. Best in class procurement does not mean best in class for your business, because every business operates differently. Every business has different ways of doing things and different care abouts. And so best in class has to be right sized for what's best for the business.
Makes complete sense. Okay, well, we spoke quite a bit about procurement and contracting, and clearly your expertise on the subject is unparalleled. Uh, but, maybe now just shifting to some goals for yourself personally and for your business. I think you run this with your partner, don't you?
Yes, I do. Karen Fisher. So she handles more of the risk, and I mean, I think it would be, maybe that's something someday we get another part 2 on, but
Absolutely.
she's great. as far as looking at risk, not compliance risk, but more like around the insurance
Okay.
and those things. So like insurance programs, things like that. So yeah.
Okay. So what goals have you set for yourself on the contracting side of the pie for your business? Where do you see yourself in the next, I don't know, 6 months? Or what do you want to do in 2026? Have you set your 2026 goals? Because it's around the corner.
We have set our 2026 goals. We do have, our an annual plan as far as like revenue that we would like to see. But more than anything, I think we really want Prism to be seen as the go-to partner for SMBs looking to transform their procurement, contract management, and operational risk. And so, that means expanding our client base in the construction and manufacturing industrial services. That means delivering case studies that show, the 5 to 10% cost reductions, as well as with contract lifecycle management, the 30 to 40%, cycle time reductions that we're proving this out, that we're able to show, that it really does make a difference. You really do see operational excellence come out of some of these things. And so, again, just strengthening our brand and our presence through thought leadership. So, more goals centered around content and really getting out there and educating people on, how procurement really can be perceived as a growth driver instead of as this reactive, restrictive organization.
Sure. Excellent. So with these goals that you have for next year, do you have anything in particular that you think is going to be your biggest challenge or blocker that's going to prevent some of these goals from materializing?
Again, it just goes back to the perception.
Yeah.
Some people just really struggle with, being able to perceive procurement anything other than being restrictive. So, changing that perspective to enable doors to open for opportunities for Prism is, what we work towards every day.
Okay. Well, it's been quite a wide-ranging conversation, I must say. Your knowledge on the contracting and procurement subject has been great. We spoke a lot about contracting, Tiffany. I'm just venturing a guess you do help on the procurement aspect of things as well, like with the whole vendor side and dealing with vendors and stuff. Yeah. I'd
Yes, yes,
imagine
yes.
that's part of the services as well. All
Mhm.
right.
That is.
Fantastic. Well, is there anything else you wanted to add to the conversation yourself in terms of kind of what Prism does, what you yourself do personally? Did you have any questions for me? Feel free to, ask as well. Ask away.
No, I just want to leave folks with the idea that, again, I think that once leaders see that procurement is really there to provide clarity versus restrictions and being restrictive, that they will be able to and hopefully be able to expand their thinking into really capitalizing on procurement as a growth driver. And we really do at Prism Enterprises believe that as we transform complexity into clarity, that business owners across the world will be able to grasp that concept. We're very excited about, where procurement is heading. We're really excited about the AI technology that's happening. We are not afraid. We are running to AI
That's the way
with,
to go. Absolutely.
arms wide open, eyes wide open. But we preface that with, again, it's only as good as its input and it requires human input. So, now I think my only question is how do you see AI? And from the conversation that we've had, is there anything that you see that we may not be considering as we look at this from a procurement, contract lifecycle management, operational risk standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I clearly see the role. So AI is transitioning, right? When we look at AI, there's three predominant aspects, kind of pillars of AI that people talk about. One is the whole automation and predictive analytics space where like you said, you feed it information, a human feeds it information, and then you set up automations within your processes for the AI to really take control of connecting different systems together or doing analysis on documents and giving you outputs for you to then present it to the right stakeholders. So there's that automation, predictive analytics space that AI is working in, which again, for procurement, that's like a huge opportunity because you have all these contracts. You wanted to just give you a summary of of the risks, like you said, and potential things to look for in the future, and you can summarize that quite quickly. So that's one aspect I see with the procurement particularly. And then you've got the other two pillars, which is the generative AI and the agentic AI, right? So generative has kind of been more dominated in the content creation space, but I see a lot of, I see a lot of potential in the agentic space, like either using an AI agent or just getting agents to talk to each other and being able to perform a lot of the activities and the manual grunt work replacement that it can do. Again, with a human that's kind of like you said, a human in the loop doing the right checks and balances. So I think for the procurement space, particularly, lots of opportunity for AI to augment and step in, but there's still a long way to go, I think, in SMBs accepting it. And it's going to come down to people like yourself and me to be able to share the right amount of information, make sure that, that they become scalable in the right way. Like you said, we don't want to be giving them solutions that doesn't is not fit for purpose. And so there's probably going to be a lot of that kind of work in this space next year, and working with people to help them understand what is the right fit for their problem.
Right, right. No, that's just very so important, because people go in here and they buy these huge packages and they don't need them. And there's, way simpler solutions that they can utilize so much more of.
Yes.
And I think people should start there versus trying to, all the big thing
A
that
new
every
shiny
we
thing.
wanna be, yeah, the shiny thing, the expensive thing. Some of these other solutions, especially the ones that we're recommending, are excellent, and they are doing exactly what companies need for where they are right now versus trying to think about, well, in 100 years, we're gonna be, well, like, let's
Focus on
spin for
today.
now,
Yes.
and we can grow. And that's important too, is just also making sure that whatever systems you are using, that it can grow with you.
Yep.
You do want it to be able to grow with you, but
Yeah.
again, you want that price to reflect where you
Match.
are now
Yes.
versus where you will be. So,
Yep. Oh, that's fantastic. It's a good place to bring this aircraft to a landing. I think it's been a great conversation.
yes, it has.
Thank you so much for your time. I do hope we can do this again sometime.
Absolutely. Anytime.
It's
I
a
had a
great
great time.
conversation.
Thank you.
Thanks.